Commander Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Earthship Terra's Hope and watched the alien warships pass by. The massive Kethver dreadnoughts moved through human space like they owned it. Their dark metal hulls were covered with weapon turrets that could destroy entire cities. Each ship was 5 times larger than anything humans had ever built. "They're not even trying to hide their contempt," said Lieutenant Torres, Sarah's second in command. He pointed at the tactical display where dozens of alien ships showed up as red dots. "Look at their formation. They're treating us like we're nothing." Sarah nodded but said nothing. She had learned to keep her anger inside. During her 10 years in the Earth Defense Force, getting mad at the aliens would not change anything. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Confederation, and everyone made sure they remembered their place. The year was 2387. Earth had joined the galaxy 50 years ago when alien scouts found human colonies spreading beyond the solar system. At first, humans thought it was amazing. They would learn from advanced civilizations and become part of something bigger than themselves. They were wrong. The galaxy was not a place of equals working together. It was a hierarchy with 3 powerful species at the top. The Kethver Empire controlled most of the military might. Their warriors were bred for battle and conquest. They believed strength was the only thing that mattered. The Zephyrian Collective had the best technology. Their ships could travel faster than anything else, and their computers could think in ways that seemed like magic. They looked down on younger species as primitive children who needed guidance. The Vorthok hegemony was the oldest and most mysterious. They had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years. When they spoke, everyone listened. When they made demands, everyone obeyed. Humans were classified as a Tier 3 civilization. This meant they could have small defensive fleets, but nothing that could threaten the major powers. Earth could build frigates and destroyers, but no battleships or carriers. The aliens made sure of this by controlling access to advanced materials and technology. "Commander, we're getting a priority message from Earth Command," said the communications officer. "Put it through," Sarah said. Admiral Marcus Webb's face appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Sarah had served under him for 5 years and respected him more than anyone else in the fleet. "Sarah, I need you and the Terra's Hope to return to Earth immediately," Webb said. "We've got a situation developing." "What kind of situation, sir?" "The kind that might decide whether humanity has a future in this galaxy," Webb replied. His expression was grim. "I'll brief you when you get here." Webb out. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah staring at a blank screen. In all her years of service, she had never heard the Admiral sound so serious. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed," she ordered. As the Terra's Hope jumped to faster-than-light travel. Sarah thought about how much had changed since humans first reached the stars. In the beginning, they had explored with wonder and excitement. They built colonies on distant worlds and dreamed of a bright future among the stars. But the galaxy had other plans for humanity. The aliens allowed humans to exist, but only as servants. Human colonies provided raw materials and labor for alien projects. Human soldiers fought in alien wars. Human scientists worked on alien problems while being denied access to the most advanced knowledge. Whenever humans tried to build something too advanced or asked for more freedom, the aliens would remind them of their place. Sometimes this meant economic sanctions. Sometimes it meant having their best ships inspected and finding critical systems mysteriously damaged. The worst part was how the aliens justified it all. They claimed they were protecting younger species from making dangerous mistakes. They said humans needed time to mature before being trusted with real power. But Sarah knew the truth. The aliens were afraid of competition. 3 days later, the Terra's Hope arrived at Earth. Sarah was surprised to see how many ships were gathered in Earth's orbital space. Every human vessel seemed to be there, from the newest destroyers to ancient patrol boats that should have been retired. Years ago, Sarah took a shuttle down to Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The building was buzzing with activity. Officers hurried through the corridors, carrying sealed orders. Computer screens showed star maps covered with red warning symbols. Admiral Webb was waiting for her in his office. He looked like he had not slept in days. "Sarah, thank you for coming so quickly," he said. "Please, sit down. We need to talk." "What's happening, sir?" Webb activated a privacy field around his desk before answering. The Confederation High Council met yesterday. They've decided that humans have grown too comfortable. They're implementing new restrictions. He brought up a holographic display showing the galaxy. Large sections were marked in different colors, representing the three major powers. The small green areas marked as human space look tiny in comparison. Starting next month, all human colonies will pay a new protection tax, Webb explained. 50% of all resources produced will go to the Confederation fleet. In addition, humans will be limited to one armed ship for every 10 civilian vessels. Sarah felt her blood run cold. That would leave us completely defenseless. It gets worse, Webb continued. Several Outer Rim colonies have reported ships disappearing. When we asked permission to investigate with our larger vessels, we were denied. The Kethver said they would handle it, and the disappearances have increased. Entire mining stations have gone dark. When Kethver ships finally arrive to investigate, they find nothing but empty space and report equipment failures. Sarah understood immediately. The aliens were taking human workers and resources while maintaining plausible deniability. If Earth complained, they would be told that space was dangerous and humans should be grateful for alien protection. "There's a meeting of the Colonial Congress tomorrow," Webb said. "Representatives from Mars, Europa, and all the outer colonies will be here. They're scared, Sarah. Some are talking about accepting vassal status to the Zephyrian Collective. Others want to fight even though we don't have the ships to make a difference. What do you think we should do, sir?" Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled for the first time since Sarah had arrived. "I think it's time the galaxy learned something about human patience," he said. "Tomorrow's meeting is going to be very interesting." The Colonial Congress meeting was supposed to start at noon. By 11:30, the Great Hall in Geneva was packed with representatives from every human world. Sarah Chun sat in the observer section, watching the faces of men and women who had traveled across the galaxy to be here. They all looked tired and afraid. Governor Martinez from the Centauri colonies spoke first. He was a big man with weathered hands who had spent 30 years building mining operations on hostile worlds. "The Kethver Empire has declared our asteroid belt facilities to be strategic resources," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "They've given us 48 hours to evacuate. 48 hours to abandon 20 years of work." A woman from the Vega system stood up next. "The Zephyrian Collective has made us an offer," she said bitterly. "They'll protect our research stations from pirates. All they want in return is 90% of everything we discover." More voices joined in from around the room. The pattern was always the same. The three major powers were moving against human colonies at the same time, using different excuses, but with the same goal. They wanted to reduce humanity to a slave species that provided labor and resources while having no real power. "What about the missing ships?" asked Representative Kim from Europa. "My cousin was on the transport Harmony when it disappeared near the Rigel system. The Kethver said they would investigate, but that was 3 months ago." Admiral Webb stood up from his seat at the front of the hall. "We have confirmation of 17 missing ships in the past 6 months, he said. "Cargo haulers, passenger transports, even a medical ship carrying supplies to the Tau Ceti hospital." Every time we request permission to send search and rescue missions, we're told that alien forces will handle it. But they don't handle it, Governor Martinez said. They just make excuses and file reports that say the ships must have had mechanical failures. Sarah watched President Elena Vasquez, who had been quiet during most of the meeting. The president was a small woman with intelligent eyes who had led humanity through some of its most difficult years. She listened carefully to every speaker, but had not yet said what she planned to do. "We need to face facts," said Representative Johnson from the Mars colonies. "We have fewer than 200 ships in our entire fleet. The Kethver Empire alone has over 10,000 warships. If we fight them, humanity will be extinct within a month." "So, what are you suggesting?" asked Governor Martinez. "That we just give up? Let them turn us into slaves?" "I'm suggesting we survive," Johnson replied. "The Zephyrian Collective is offering us protected status. Yes, we'd have to give up most of our independence, but our people would live. Our children would have a future." "What kind of future?" demanded the woman from Vega. "Working in alien factories? Fighting in alien wars? Never being allowed to build anything of our own?" The argument continued for over an hour. Some representatives wanted to negotiate with the aliens and hope for better terms. Others wanted to fight, even if it meant destruction. A few suggested abandoning the colonies and retreating to Earth's solar system, though everyone knew the aliens would never allow that. Finally, President Vasquez stood up. The hall fell silent. "I've heard all your concerns," she said. "I understand your fear, and I share it. The decision we make today will determine whether humanity remains free or becomes a servant species for the rest of our existence." She walked to the center of the hall, her footsteps echoing in the silence. "But before we make that decision, there's something you all need to know. Something we've kept secret for 50 years. Sarah felt her heart start beating faster. She looked at Admiral Webb, who was watching the president with an expression she could not read. "When we first joined the Galactic Confederation, we were amazed by alien technology," President Vasquez continued. "Their ships were faster than ours, their weapons more powerful, their computers more advanced. We felt like children who had just discovered that adults existed." She paused and looked around the room at every face. "But we're not children. We're human beings, and human beings don't stay helpless for long. For the past 50 years, while we've been building colonies and trading with aliens, we've also been learning, studying, planning." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some representatives looked confused, others hopeful. "The aliens made one very important mistake," the president said. "They assumed that because we were new to the galaxy, we thought like them. They assumed we would either submit or fight according to their rules. They never considered that we might choose a third option." Admiral Webb stood up and walked to join the president. For the first time in months, Sarah saw him smile. "Ladies and gentlemen," Webb said, "for 50 years the galaxy has tested our patience. They've insulted us, restricted us, and treated us like we don't matter. We chose to endure it all while we prepared for this moment." "What moment?" asked Governor Martinez. Webb looked at President Vasquez, who nodded. "The moment when we show them what human patience is built," Webb said. He activated a holographic display that showed the outer edge of the solar system. Near Jupiter, Sarah could see the normal traffic of cargo ships and civilian transports. But there was something else, something that made her catch her breath. "Is that Europa?" she asked. "Yes," Webb replied, "but not the Europa you remember." The image zoomed in on Jupiter's ice-covered moon. At first, it looked normal. Then Sarah noticed the regular patterns in the ice, too straight to be natural. The patterns covered vast areas of the moon's surface. "What are we looking at?" asked Representative Kim. "Construction base," Webb said simply. 47 of them, each one larger than anything humanity has ever built. Hidden under the ice for 5 decades. The room erupted in questions and exclamations. Sarah felt dizzy as she tried to understand what she was seeing. "We spent 50 years learning from the aliens," President Vasquez explained. "We studied their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. We took the best of what they had and made it better. Then we built something they never expected us to build." "Built what?" someone shouted. Admiral Webb's smile grew wider. "Something that will change the balance of power in this galaxy forever." He pressed a control, and new images appeared on the display. Sarah saw massive mechanical structures beginning to move beneath Europa's ice. The moon itself seemed to be opening up like a flower. "Tomorrow, the galaxy will learn that human patience has limits," Webb said. "And when those limits are reached, the consequences will reshape everything." "They thought they knew about us." President Vasquez looked around the room one more time. "The age of humanity, as the galaxy's servant species, is about to end," she announced. "The question is, are you ready for what comes next?" Sarah Chun had seen many impressive sights during her years in space, but nothing had prepared her for what was happening on Europa. She stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Jupiter, watching as humanity's greatest secret finally revealed itself to the galaxy. The ice on Europa's surface was moving. Not cracking or breaking, but flowing like water as massive sections slid apart with perfect precision. Beneath the ice, Sarah could see metal structures that gleamed with an inner light. The construction bays that Admiral Webb had shown them were real, and they were enormous. "My God," whispered Dr. Patel, the station's chief scientist. "How long has this been going on?" 50 years, Admiral Webb replied. He had arrived on the station an hour ago to personally oversee what he called the reveal. "Ever since we joined the Galactic Confederation, we've been building this." Sarah watched as the ice continued to part, revealing something that defied belief. Rising from Europa's depths was a ship unlike anything she had ever imagined. It kept coming and coming, growing larger with each passing second. "How big is it?" she asked. 12 kilometers from bow to stern, Webb answered. 2 kilometers wide at the beam. The Leviathan is larger than some space stations. The Supercarrier's hull was unlike any human ship Sarah had seen. Instead of the simple gray metal of Earth vessels, it was covered with a dark material that seemed to bend light around it. Patterns flowed across its surface like living circuits, and sections that should have been solid appeared to shift and change as she watched. "What's it made of?" Dr. Patel asked. "Metamaterials based on Zephyrian quantum engineering, improved with Kethver armor plating techniques and powered by Vorthic energy systems," Webb explained. "We've had 50 years to study the best of what each species offers. Then we made it all work together in ways they never imagined." As the Leviathan cleared Europa's surface, Sarah could see its true scale. The ship was not just large. It was a floating city. Sections of the hull moved independently, revealing launch bays, weapon arrays, and structures she could not identify. "Sir," said the communications officer, "we're receiving thousands of signals from across the solar system. Every ship, station, and colony wants to know what's happening." "Open a channel on all frequencies," Webb ordered. "It's time for the galaxy to meet humanity's real navy." The Leviathan's launch bays began to open. Sarah expected to see a few hundred fighters emerge, which would have been impressive for any ship. Instead, she watched in amazement as thousands of craft poured out like a swarm of metal insects. But these were not just fighters. Mixed in with the smaller ships were destroyers, cruisers, and vessels of designs she had never seen before. Each ship bore the angular lines of human engineering, but enhanced with technology that made them look decades ahead of anything in Earth's official fleet. "How many ships?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. The Leviathan carries 8,000 combat vessels, Webb replied. From single-seat fighters to heavy cruisers. Each one is more advanced than our best official ships. As Sarah watched, the Supercarrier itself began to transform. Sections of the hull slid apart and reconfigured like a massive puzzle solving itself. Weapon arrays emerged from hidden compartments, each one larger than the main guns on Earth's destroyers. It's not just a carrier, she realized. No, Webb agreed. The Leviathan can function as a carrier, a battleship, a space station, or a mobile fortress depending on the situation. We designed it to be whatever humanity needs it to be. Dr. Patel was staring at his sensor readings in disbelief. Admiral, the energy signatures I'm detecting. Some of these systems are producing power levels that should be impossible. Impossible by current galactic standards, Webb corrected. We had 50 years to think outside the box while the galaxy's three major powers grew comfortable with their existing technology. They stopped innovating because they had no competition. We never stopped because we knew our survival depended on it. Sarah's tactical officer suddenly called out from his station. Sir, we're detecting massive fleet movements throughout the system. Every major power has ships heading this way. Expected, Webb said calmly. Put it on the main display. The screen showed the solar system with hundreds of red dots moving toward Earth. HFY war fleets were jumping in from 3 different directions. Zephyrian technology ships were appearing at the edge of the system. Even the mysterious Vorthok hegemony had sent observers. They're surrounding us, Sarah said. They're positioning themselves to witness history, Webb replied. He walked to the communications console and activated the ship's transmitters. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Earth Defense Force, broadcasting on all galactic frequencies, he began. His voice was calm, but carried an authority Sarah had never heard before. For 50 years, you have tested our patience, our resolve, and our commitment to peace. You have treated humanity as servants, taken our resources, and ignored our rights as sentient beings. You assumed that because we were new to the galaxy, we would remain weak forever. The Leviathan had fully transformed now, its weapon arrays locked onto the approaching alien fleets. The ships it had launched were forming up in battle formations that covered thousands of cubic kilometers of space. You were wrong, Webb continued. We chose to build in secret rather than provoke an arms race. We chose to endure insults rather than respond with violence. We chose to wait until we were strong enough to ensure that our children would never again be forced to bow to anyone. Sarah could see the alien fleet slowing as they approached. Even at long range, their sensors must have been detecting energy readings that didn't match anything in their databases. The age of humanity as a servant species ends today, Webb declared. We claim no new territory and seek no tribute from others. We ask only for what should have been ours from the beginning: respect. The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. To the HFY Empire, your protection taxes are ended. Withdraw your forces from human colonies immediately. To the Zephyrian Collective, your territorial claims on human space are rejected. Return all seized assets within 72 hours. To the Vorthok hegemony, your population management protocols will not be applied to human worlds. Any attempt to do so will be considered an act of war. Sarah watched as the Leviathan's weapons powered up. The energy readings on her console spiked to levels that should have overloaded her instruments. Around the Supercarrier, the human fleet moved with precision that spoke of decades of planning and training. We have prepared for this moment for 50 years, Webb concluded. We hoped it would never come, but we were ready for it nonetheless. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was never our adaptability or our courage. It was our patience. The transmission ended, leaving the solar system in complete silence. For the first time in her life, Sarah could not detect a single alien communication anywhere in local space. The galaxy had gone quiet, and in that silence, a new age was beginning. Admiral Threxka of the Kethver Empire had conquered 47 star systems during his military career. He had faced desperate enemies, overwhelming odds, and impossible situations. He had never experienced fear. Until now. Standing on the bridge of his flagship Death's Thunder, the massive warrior stared at his tactical displays with growing horror. The energy readings coming from the human supercarrier were beyond anything in Kethver databases. His ship's computers kept running the same calculations and returning the same impossible result. "Sir," his tactical officer said, his voice shaking, "the human vessel's weapon arrays are producing energy signatures that exceed our entire battle fleet combined." Threxka said nothing. Around him, the bridge crew that had fought beside him for 20 years stood frozen at their stations. These were veterans who had never backed down from any fight, but they all understood what they were seeing. The humans had not just built a ship. They had built something that could destroy the entire Kethver invasion force without taking damage. "Orders, sir?" his second-in-command asked. Threxka continued to stare at the display. The human fleet was positioning itself with precision that spoke of decades of training. Every movement was calculated, every formation perfect. This was not a desperate defense thrown together in panic. This was the execution of a plan 50 years in the making. "All ships, hold position," he finally said. "No hostile actions. Maintain safe distance from the human fleet." For the first time in Kethver military history, a war fleet had stopped advancing, not because of orders from high command, but because its admiral was afraid, 3 light years away. The Zephyrian Collective's quantum communication networks had fallen completely silent. On the research vessel Infinite Calculation, Dr. Vexstar ran probability simulations on the human situation for the 100th time. The results were always the same. Complete strategic disadvantage for any force that opposed the human supercarrier. "This should not be possible," Dr. Vexstar muttered to herself. "Our intelligence networks have monitored human space for 50 years. They reported nothing like this." Her assistant, Dr. Moreland, was reviewing historical data with growing alarm. "Doctor, I've been analyzing the energy patterns from the human ship. Some of these signatures match theoretical designs from our most classified research projects." "Which projects?" "The ones we decided were too dangerous to build." Dr. Vexstar felt something she had never experienced before: intellectual humility. The Zephyrian Collective prided itself on being the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Their computers could predict the behavior of entire star systems. Their scientists had unlocked secrets of physics that other species couldn't even understand, but they had completely failed to predict or understand what the humans had been doing. "Send a priority message to the Collective Council," she ordered. "Recommend immediate withdrawal from all disputed territories. The humans have achieved technological superiority through methods we do not understand. Should we attempt to analyze their technology?" Dr. Vexstar looked at the sensor readings again. The human ships were using principles that her people had theorized but never dared to implement. "No. Any attempt to scan them might be seen as hostile. We cannot risk provoking them until we understand their full capabilities." Meanwhile, in the ancient halls of the Vorthic hegemony, an emergency session of the Elder Council had been called for the first time in 300 years. The Vorthic were the oldest spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. They had seen empires rise and fall, witnessed the birth of new species and the extinction of old ones. Nothing surprised them anymore, or so they had thought. Elder Prime Zethmos sat on the crystal throne, his ancient form barely visible within the ceremonial robes of his office. Around him, the 12 Elder Council members debated in whispers. For the first time in millennia, The Vorthek could not reach consensus on how to respond to a crisis. "The energy readings confirm it," Elder Yulter said, her voice carrying the weight of 5,000 years. "The humans have built something that rivals the weapons of the first builders." A murmur ran through the council. The first builders were a legendary civilization that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. Most species considered them myths, but the Vorthek remembered when their ruins still glowed with residual power. "Impossible," Elder Korvex objected. "The humans are barely 50 years into space travel. They lack the knowledge and experience to build such weapons. And yet they have built them," Elder Prime Zethmos said quietly. "The question is not how they accomplished this, but what it means for the future of the galaxy." Elder Silvara, the youngest member of the council at only 3,000 years old, spoke carefully. "There are legends in our oldest archives. Stories of a young species that would one day force the galaxy to choose between wisdom and extinction." "You speak of the prophecy of the sleeping terror," Elder Prime Zethmos said. "I had hoped it was merely the imagination of our ancestors." "Perhaps our ancestors were wiser than we believed," Elder Yulter suggested. "Perhaps they foresaw this moment when a young species would develop power that could challenge the established order." The council fell silent as they contemplated the implications. For 3,000 years, the Vorthek hegemony had maintained galactic stability through careful manipulation of younger species. They had prevented any one civilization from becoming too powerful by encouraging conflict between rival groups. Now they faced something they had never encountered. A species that had become powerful enough to threaten the balance, but had chosen to reveal that power only when pushed to desperation. "What are your orders, Elder Prime?" asked the council secretary. Zethmos was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, his ancient form moving with surprising grace. "Send a message to all Vorthek territories," he said. "Effective immediately, all claims on human space are withdrawn. All interaction with human colonies will cease until further notice." The council exchanged glances. Such a rapid reversal of policy was unprecedented. Furthermore, Elder Prime continued, "Prepare a formal communication to the human leadership. After 3 millennia of silence, the Vorthek hegemony will speak directly to humanity." Back in the solar system, Sarah Chun watched her communications board with amazement. For 6 hours after Admiral Webb's broadcast, there had been absolute silence from the alien fleets. No transmissions, no movement, no response of any kind dotted. It was as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. "Sir," her communications officer reported, "we're starting to receive responses." "What kind of responses?" "Withdrawal orders. The Kethver fleet is pulling back beyond the asteroid belt. The Zephyrian ships are jumping out of the system entirely. And, sir, we're receiving a direct transmission from the Vorthek hegemony." Sarah felt her heart skip. The Vorthek had not spoken directly to humanity in 50 years. When they communicated at all, it was through intermediaries and official channels. "Put it through," Admiral Webb ordered from his position on the Leviathan. The transmission was brief and formal. "The Vorthek hegemony acknowledges the new balance. All territorial claims are hereby withdrawn. The ancients await the wisdom of the young." Sarah stared at the message in disbelief. In the space of a few hours, humanity had gone from being the galaxy's servants to being treated as equals by its most ancient civilization. "What happens now?" she asked. Admiral Webb's voice came through the communicator, and for the first time in months, he sounded tired but relieved. "Now we find out if 50 years of patience was worth it," he said. "The galaxy is about to discover what happens when humanity finally says no." 6 months after the revelation of the Leviathan, Admiral Marcus Webb stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Confederation. For the first time in the organization's history, a human representative had been invited to address the council not as a petitioner requesting favors, but as an equal partner in galactic affairs. The Great Chamber on the neutral world of Nexus Prime held representatives from over 200 species. Webb could see the three major powers in their traditional seats at the front of the assembly. The HFY delegation sat stiffly in their military uniforms, their warrior pride clearly wounded by recent events. The Zephyrian representatives maintained their usual calm expressions, but Webb noticed they kept glancing at their data tablets as if still trying to understand what had happened. The Vorthok delegation was the most interesting. For the first time in recorded history, they had sent not just observers, but actual negotiators. "Honored delegates," Webb began, his voice carrying clearly through the Chamber's translation systems. 6 months ago, humanity revealed capabilities that surprised many of you. Today, I want to explain why we made the choices we did and what they mean for our shared future. He activated a holographic display showing the timeline of human galactic involvement. When Earth joined the Confederation 50 years ago, we were amazed by what we found. Faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, artificial intelligence systems that seemed like magic to us. We felt like children who had discovered that adults existed. A murmur ran through the assembly. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably at the reminder of how they had treated humanity during those early years. But we were not children, Webb continued. We were human beings, and human beings have one trait that has ensured our survival for millions of years. We adapt. More than that, we plan for the future, even when that future looks dark. The display changed to show the hidden construction on Europa. For 50 years, while we built colonies and traded with your civilizations, we were also studying you. We learned about HFY military doctrine by serving in your armies. We understood Zephyrian technology by working in your research facilities. We discovered Vorthok political methods by observing your negotiations. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective spoke up. "Are you saying you were spying on us?" "No," Webb replied. "We were learning from you. Everything we discovered was shared openly by your own people. You taught us because you never imagined we would use that knowledge to become your equals." Elder Silvara of the Vorthok hegemony leaned forward in her seat. "You speak of equality, Admiral Webb, but the power you revealed suggests something more than equality." Webb nodded respectfully. "You raise an important point, Elder. Humanity did not reveal the Leviathan to become conquerors. We revealed it to ensure that we would never again be victims." He changed the display to show current galactic shipping routes. Since our reveal 6 months ago, pirate attacks on human vessels have dropped to 0. The missing ships that plagued our outer colonies have stopped disappearing. Territories that were claimed by force have been returned to their rightful owners. General Frexka of the HFY Empire stood up abruptly. "You speak of peace, human, but you threaten us with weapons that could destroy our homeworlds." "General," Webb replied calmly, "in your military career, how many worlds has the HFY Empire conquered?" 47, Frexka answered proudly. "And how many worlds has humanity conquered since revealing our true capabilities?" The general fell silent. The answer was obvious to everyone in the chamber. 0, Webb said. "We have taken no new territory, demanded no tribute, and imposed our will on no other species. The Leviathan exists not to attack others, but to ensure that others cannot attack us." Dr. Vextar of the Zephyrian Collective activated her holographic interface. "Admiral, our analysis of your vessel suggests technological capabilities that should require centuries of development. How did you achieve such rapid advancement?" Webb smiled slightly. "Dr. Vextar, you answered your own question. You assumed we needed centuries because that's how long it took your people to develop similar technology. But you developed it alone, competing with no one, with no pressure to innovate quickly. And humans had pressure?" "Humans had motivation," Webb corrected. "When your survival depends on innovation, When your children's freedom requires technological superiority, when your very existence as a free species hangs in the balance, well, that tends to focus the mind. The display changed again, showing the current deployment of human forces. Today, the Leviathan and her sister ships patrol the edges of human space. We have not entered the territory of any other species. We have not threatened anyone who has not threatened us. We seek only to exist as free beings in a galaxy that has room for all of us. Elder Prime Zethmos of the Vorthic Hegemony rose slowly from his seat. When he spoke, his ancient voice carried the weight of millennia. For 3,000 years, the Vorthic Hegemony has maintained galactic stability by preventing any one species from becoming too powerful, he said. We believed this was necessary to prevent wars that could destroy entire civilizations. He paused, looking directly at Webb. We were wrong. True stability comes not from imposed weakness, but from mutual respect between equals. Admiral Webb, the Vorthic Hegemony formally recognizes humanity's right to self-determination and defensive capability. The chamber erupted in surprise conversations. Never before had the Vorthic admitted to making a mistake, let alone reversed a policy that had guided their actions for thousands of years. Ambassador Veltar stood up. The Zephyrian Collective also recognizes humanity's new status. We would be interested in technological exchange agreements on equal terms. General Threxka remained seated, but spoke loudly enough for all to hear. The Kethver Empire acknowledges human territorial sovereignty. We respect strength when we see it. Webb nodded to each delegation in turn. Thank you all. But I want to be very clear about something. The strength you respect is not just military power. It is the strength to endure 50 years of insults and restrictions while building something better. It is the strength to choose patience over violence, planning over reaction, and hope over despair. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. Humanity's greatest achievement was not building the Leviathan. It was learning how to wait. We played what your species called a long game while everyone else focused on immediate advantage. We endured being underestimated because we knew that one day we would be ready. The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in. Today marks the beginning of a new era for humanity, but also for the entire galaxy. No longer will any species have to choose between freedom and survival. No longer will the strong be able to prey upon the weak without consequence. We have proven that even the newest member of the galactic community can become an equal partner, if given time and motivation. He deactivated the display and stepped back from the podium. The age of galactic hierarchy is ending. The age of mutual respect has begun. Humanity offers friendship to all species who want it, partnership to all who need it, and protection to all who seek it. But we will never again accept the role of servants in someone else's empire. As Webb returned to his seat, the chamber filled with the sound of hundreds of species discussing what they had just heard. Sarah Chun, watching from the observation gallery, felt a profound sense of pride in her species and its leaders. Later, as they prepared to return to the Leviathan, Webb stood with Sarah on the observation deck of the space station. Below them, ships from dozens of civilizations moved through Nexus Prime's orbital space in patterns that had remained unchanged for centuries. Do you think it will last? Sarah asked. This new balance? Webb was quiet for a moment, watching a Kethver destroyer give way to a human freighter in the shipping lanes, something that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Sarah, for 50 years, the galaxy treated us like children who needed their guidance and protection. What they never understood is that children grow up. And when they do, they remember how they were treated. He smiled as a squadron of human fighters flew past in perfect formation, their sleek hulls reflecting the light from Nexus Prime's sun. We've shown them what human patience can accomplish. Now they'll spend the next 50 years wondering what else we've been quietly working on. That uncertainty, that respect for what we might be capable of, that's what will keep the peace. Sarah looked out at the stars, thinking about all the human colonies that were now free to build their own futures. All the children who would grow up as equals rather than servants. All the possibilities that had opened up because humanity had chosen to wait for the right moment to say no. The galaxy had gone silent when humanity revealed its hidden strength. But in that silence, a new voice had emerged, one that spoke of patience, determination, and the quiet power of a species that refused to accept limitations imposed by others. The age of human servitude was over. The age of human equality had begun.